Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Perth Town Hall election debate. It's great to have your company this evening. If you are on the internet and you want to join in by asking a question, don't forget you can jump on Twitter and use the hashtag WAPoll. There's still space down here as well, plenty of empty seats at the moment, so there's still time for you to make your way down here. And once again, I'll put the call out to the Liberal Party. We don't know where you've gone. Would really like it if you'd come down and join us this evening. All right, time to introduce our next two candidates. It's Farida Iqbal and Henry Heng. Ladies and gentlemen, if you could please put your hands together. Thank you both. I'll give you 1 minute each to introduce yourselves and what you stand for. Farida.
Okay, I'm running for the Socialist Alliance. Basically, what we're fighting for is a society that's organised around human need and around the environment rather than for corporate profit. So, the main thing that we're campaigning around in this state election is for public ownership of the mining industry. That's like, you know, how the schools or the libraries are in public hands. We want that to apply to the mining industry as well. Firstly, so that the exorbitant wealth from the mining industry can be brought into the public hands, so we can use it to fund the urgently needed social services, such as around homelessness and housing in WA. But also, we need to rein in the mining industry simply to ensure the future of this planet.
I'm going to have to wind you up there. It was 1 minute for the intro, so thank you, Farida. Henry.
Hi, I'm Henry Heng, Family First candidate for North Metro region, Upper House seat. Migrated here with my wife and two daughters 17 years ago, have always lived in the North Metro region. And 15 years ago, with some friends, we started a bottled water business. It grew very well, and in 2006, we listed on the stock exchange. Now we have 6 factories in Australia, in 4 states. I've always been active in social and community service. In Singapore, I was a church leader. I was also vice chairman of a youth club. And coming here, I've also been a church leader. I've been on the governing council of Edith Cowan University for 3 years, including as a member of their resources committee. So I know what it's like to serve the community. Having been an employer for 15 years, giving jobs to more than 500 employees.
Sorry, Henry, I'm going to have to stop you there. It is a minute each, so we'll try to keep it as fair as we can. Let's go to our first question from the floor. Paul.
Thank you, Jason. Well, look, it seems the first question we have is for Henry, and it's obviously somebody thinking much the same as I did. You may have noticed on the internet this week, spreading like wildfire was one of the most amazing political commercials I've ever seen in my entire life. It's Let's All Vote for Henry jingle, and Sam from Kensington wants to ask Henry, who wrote that jingle?
That happened to be my campaign manager. Yeah, I can't sing and I can't write songs, but my campaign manager happened to be a songwriter. Well, he writes songs as a pastime. So,
Henry, can you whistle it for us? Sing it?
No, I'd rather not try.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah, but we were amazed with the publicity we got. We were on 10 News, we were on ABC Insiders, 92.9. I was interviewed on 6PR, and we didn't expect all this publicity when we came out with the jingle.
Must have been a pretty good ad. Let's go back to the floor. Paul.
Look, it's fabulous. If you are on YouTube, just Google Vote for Henry and you'll find it pretty quickly. Paul Madden of Maylands. Paul Madden, if you're here, if you'd like to put your hand up. Here you are, Paul. We'll go to Paul. Come over here. You have a question. I'll get you to put it to our two panellists this evening, because I'm sure they'll be interested to answer this in 2 extremely different ways.
Yes, thank you. Unfortunately, on the 31st of March 2012, the West Australian reported that 14 babies that were aborted were actually born alive, yet they were allowed to die. Could I please have an understanding of how you feel about this, and who do you think is accountable? Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Henry, we'll go with you first on that.
Sorry, could you repeat the question? I didn't quite...
Paul, can you possibly repeat the question for us?
The question was, the West Australian has recently reported that 14 babies were aborted, but they were born alive and then allowed to die. So the question Paul had is, how do you feel about this, and who is accountable for this?
Still struggling to get...
Yeah, still struggling.
Yeah, well, Farida, can we go with you first?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of an interesting question. I think it's coming from someone who's coming from an anti-abortion angle, and it's coming from someone who's maybe not prepared to say that outright. The Socialist Alliance absolutely supports the full right to abortion for women in WA and the whole country, as does the majority of the population.
Family First, we believe in the right to life, and we believe that every opportunity should be given for the baby to be conceived.
All right, okay, well, let's leave it at that then. Paul, any other questions from the floor?
All right, something a little easier perhaps. This one's from Rob of Maylands, and Rob doesn't want to speak, sadly. But anyway, I'll ask. In what ways could public transport be developed to greatly improve the quality of life in Perth? This one's directed at the Socialist Alliance.
Okay. So the Socialist Alliance has a policy in support of free public transport, and I catch the bus all the time, and the fare is exorbitant. It costs $4 to get from Fremantle to Perth, and for someone on a low income, it's just very, very difficult. So we support free public transport for the environment and for low-income people.
But how would you actually fund that?
Now, this is the interesting part. This is where it comes down to our campaign for public ownership of the mining industry. The exorbitant profits that the mining industry makes would be much better going into something like free public transport than going into the pockets of the Gina Rineharts of the world. I'm sure
Farida, that sounds great, and you know, even I think that's a really great idea. But it's really not that practical, because the Rio Tintos of the world and the BHPs, they're not going to be very happy about it, and they're going to throw a lot of money at making sure it couldn't happen. So how would you make it happen?
Well, of course they would oppose it with all their might, and their might is quite mighty. However, I think the masses of people, when they come together and stand up for something, can achieve anything. We can take on the mining industry. Only a couple of years ago, the coal mining industry was kicked out of Margaret River. And if we just think big, we can achieve this.
Terrific. Henry?
Being a businessman, I believe every business is entitled to the profits they make, because the investments they put in, for example, in mining, you're talking about tens of billions of dollars, you know. But Perth definitely needs a better public transport system, a more affordable public transport system, and there's a lot that could be done along that line.
All right. Now, Henry, you're part of Family First.
Yes.
Which is notionally not a religious organisation.
Yes.
But really all of your policies are almost identical to one of our previous candidates. What separates you? Why should people look at Family First?
Well, we believe that in a value system. So Family First, we call ourselves a party based on values. For example, if a non-Christian would come forward and share our values, we would still endorse them as candidates. You don't have to be a Christian to stand as a candidate for Family First. And only on Friday, my wife and I were at the Perth Mall sending out flyers approved by the Imam of the mosque, you know. So we are more than just, so we don't call ourselves a Christian party. We are actually a party based on values. And of course, the conservative family values.
All right, great, thank you. Let's go back to the floor, Paul.
To the Paul, I am the only one. Thank you, Jason. This one is from Alex of Maylands. Maylands representing here this evening. Alex, are you here? Yes, Alex? You have a question, I have here.
All right, this was actually to the other parties. I was actually, well, maybe to Farida to explain more about this policy of bringing the mines under public ownership.
Thank you.
Sorry, more about the policy on bringing mines under public ownership?
Bringing the mines under public ownership, bringing the mining industry under public ownership.
Yes, well, the mining industry is well out of control in Western Australia. I think they support, the state government obviously wants to start a uranium mine, the Torre uranium mine in WA, which is well out of order, I think, and also hydraulic fracturing, which is a very controversial process of mining for unconventional gas banned in Bulgaria, opposed by grassroots movements all over the world, and yeah.
So from your perspective, a state-owned mine wouldn't be doing any of this dangerous stuff? So James Price Point would be off the agenda, uranium mines off the agenda, fracking off the agenda? There's not going to be much left for them to do.
Well, state ownership is only part of what needs to happen. The other thing that needs to happen, like the government needs to own the mining industry, but the other thing that needs to happen is the people need to own the government. And if the people truly owned the government, I don't think we would let hydraulic fracturing proceed in this state, or uranium mining, or the James Price Point project.
Henry, what are your thoughts? Sorry, go on if you feel like clapping, bring it on.
I would encourage private ownership, but we need to pay a lot of money to pay for the lower income group. And corporate taxes is one way, like in the mining tax, a lot of royalties actually go back to the state. And WA is in a boom situation where we are actually receiving a lot of funds from this mining royalty to finance the public infrastructure, which is a good thing because, like we mentioned about transport. How are we going to fund the infrastructure for transport if we don't have these royalties from mining?
All right, now just quickly, and I don't want long answers for this, just short answers. Elizabeth Quay, what's your thoughts?
Sorry, Elizabeth Quay?
Elizabeth Quay itself. So if you had any influence over the decision, would you still proceed with Elizabeth Quay?
I'm sorry?
You don't know Elizabeth Quay? You know the big bit of land that they're chopping out down on Riverside Drive there?
Oh, yes. No, I think this is a terrible waste of money, this whole redevelopment of the foreshore. It's costing, what, $1 billion? It's correct, it's been said before tonight that the state government has its priorities completely wrong, and that $1 billion should go towards social services, particularly the housing crisis facing Perth.
Thank you. Henry, thoughts?
I support development because even though the government is putting in the infrastructure, at the end of the day they're inviting private enterprise to invest in hotels, for example. In Perth, we have reached a situation where hotel is almost full occupancy, which is a very difficult situation with the high hotel rates. So we do need more hotels. And with the infrastructure in place, I was at in March when Premier Colin Barnett was in Singapore to open the WA trade office. He was openly challenging the Singapore businessmen to come to Perth to invest in the infrastructure. So it's a public-private sort of investment, it's not just public funds.
All right, thank you. And thank you to you both, Farida Iqbal from the Socialist Alliance and Henry Heng from Family First.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to go to another break, but before we do, I'll just let you know how we're doing the next segment of the program. We do have a Greens representative, and we were planning on having someone from the Shooters Party alongside, but unfortunately they've not turned up. We don't have any Liberals, so we're going to go to the audience, and we're going to get a vote from the audience on which one of our previous candidates will be matched up with Lynn from the Greens. We'll be doing that during the break, and we'll look forward to your company when we come back.